Alma the Dinosaur
by Ziania Franco,
Tony Smith,
Veronica Fajardo, and Gabby Rakenis.
Alma the Dinosaur is a land dinosaur. She is terrified of the water and she refuses to go in it. Alma hears something across the water and she feels she needs to go see what it is because it's calling her name. Now Alma doesn't want to go across because she's younger than most dinosaurs. Alma starts to think of ways to cross the big water, but she's still frightened. Alma has been putting aside wood and she had to build a boat and it was hard. Alma was making a boat and completed it. It was perfect, so she set out the morning after. At first she didn't want to. The water still scared her. As she was gathering food and supplies, the fear began to take her over and she started shaking. Finally, she decided that she had to go across the ocean. She didn't want to go, but without a second thought, she pushed off the shore. Being only 2 feet from the shore, her memories came flooding back to when she lost her mom to the sea monster. After she was born, her mom went to the water to get a quick drink. She was drinking water when a sea monster snatched her and took her away. Still near the shore, Alma grabbed the paddle and paddled to the shore. Breathing hard, she laid down in the sand. Ugh, I'm such a wimp, she thought to herself. She sat up and looked up at the forest on the other side, listening to all the sounds. She was sitting there when suddenly an owl swooped down from the sky. Alma sat up and looked at the owl. Well, it said while Alma stared at the owl and shook her head with disbelief. There shouldn't be an owl up during the day, she thought to herself. The owl looked at her, then looked over at the water. Well, if you don't go over there, you will never find out who called you. Alma looked at the owl and didn't say anything for a while. Then she asked, "Why are you helping me?" "Because I want to help you," replied the owl. And for a while, that was all that was said between the two of them. Alma could feel the owl staring at her, but she just kept staring out at the water and the forest.
Finally, she tried to go again. She stepped into the boat and pushed off. When she looked back, she didn't see the owl. For a while, she just floated on the boat, thinking about nothing, when suddenly bubbles floated to the surface of the water. Alma looked down into the water and saw a baby squirrel. She gasped, and without thinking, she pulled the squirrel out of the water. When the baby squirrel finally caught her breath, she said, "Thank you, and could you please take me home?" Alma nodded and started to paddle the boat to the other side. Alma asked the squirrel what her name is, and the squirrel replied, "Pip." "Okay, where do you live?" Alma asked. "I live on the other side of the water." "My mom and I live in a big tree in the middle of the forest," Pip said. "I fell asleep last night, and when I woke up, I was in the air. Then I was dropped into the water." Who would do something like this? Alma thought to herself. Finally, after some time, they reached the other side just as the sun set. With the sun still orange, Alma helped Pip out and pulled the boat to the sand. Alma turned back to the water and saw the top of the sea monster's back out in the water. With a shiver, she turned back to Pip and smiled. "Where is this house of yours?" The sky went dark and Alma couldn't see anything but a pair of yellow eyes. All of a sudden, a voice boomed in the background.
No one will be going home. With a swoop, the owl landed in the sand. Pip stifled a scream as she ran behind Alma. "Save me, Alma," yelled Pip. Alma turned to face the mysterious owl that seemed to come out of nowhere. "I don't know why you're bothering us, but you're not going to bother us anymore." The owl gave Alma a dirty look and then started to fly towards Alma. She stood her ground, and when the owl got closer, she held her foot out and kicked the owl in the stomach. Then she picked the owl up and held it above her head. She looked out over the water. She saw the big sea monster coming up to the surface. The sea monster opened its mouth and Alma threw the owl out into the water. The sea monster jumped into the air and caught the owl in its mouth, then went back under the water. Alma felt relieved, but that soon disappeared when the sea monster came back again and roared at her. Alma had come a long way, and she wasn't going to give up now. She roared right back at the sea monster. After a few seconds, the sea monster finally gave up and swam away. Alma smiled triumphantly. She had overcome her two biggest fears, the water and standing up for herself. Pip then ruined her moment by yelling, "Mommy!" A big squirrel popped out of the bushes. She ran to Pip and picked her up and hugged her. Pip whispered to her mom, then said, "Mommy says that you should come eat breakfast with us." Alma agreed and they all went to the big tree. They all had orange juice and waffles as Alma and Pip retold their story to Pip's mom. Alma and Pip helped clean up after breakfast while Pip's mom packed Alma some snacks for her trip home. She hugged Pip and then pushed her boat off the shore. She started paddling and started her way home. As she neared the shore, she saw dinosaurs on the beach waiting for her. She pulled the boat on the shore and asked why everyone was there. They all said happy birthday and bought out cakes and presents. Alma was shocked. She had forgotten that it was her birthday. She and her friends partied all day and all night. When the party was over, she went home and watched the stars. Just before she fell asleep, she could almost feel her mother's kiss on her forehead. She fell asleep with a smile.